Coming up, Newsline.
This program only reflects the personal views of the program hosts and/or the individual contributors.
This is Newsline. I am Michael Chugani. Tonight, two very special guests, Mr. Henry Tang and Mrs. Lisa Tang. Thank you both for being on this show. Now, I know, Lisa Tang, you didn't really want to come on this show, and I was able to persuade you to come, and I want to thank you for being on this show. This is a very important show because the election for the chief executive is going to happen in a couple of weeks' time. And there are a lot of things happening out there, and we don't know what's going to happen in 2 weeks. Because they say a week is a long time in politics. I think 2 weeks is going to be a very, very long time in politics. Let's hope there's nothing more that comes out that will hurt the well-interest of Hong Kong. Now, I'm going to talk to you not about the political issues of this election, but about other things that have been swirling around that have, in fact, taken the focus away from the election, which I think many people feel is not the right thing to do. Lisa Tang, I want to come to you first. The things that have been swirling around is, your issues with your husband, Mr. Henry Tang, and whether he has had an extramarital affair, whether he's got an illegitimate child. I won't go into that. I know you're sick and tired of answering those questions. But I want to ask you this, as a woman, and as a wife, when you found out, and as a human being, when you found out that your husband had an affair, surely it must have hurt you. Was it very bad?
Have you ever had the feeling that your heart dropped to the bottom?
You felt that your heart dropped to the bottom?
Yes.
How did you pick it up?
I came to my senses.
And you moved on?
Of course.
Was it difficult to move on?
I'm very lucky to have Henry being there to help me move on.
Did he help you move on?
Yes.
He helped you move on. You helped Mrs. Lisa Tang, your wife Lisa Tang, move on.
Michael, Lisa and I have known each other since childhood. So we are very, very good friends on top of our relationship. So that's one of the reasons why we have come and grown so close together, because of our long time relationship.
You must have felt very bad yourself, inside of you. You must have said, I have a good marriage, why am I ruining it?
I felt that I've betrayed my wife by having an extramarital affair. I felt bad about it. And that's why we both wanted to mend the fences and picked up ourselves and move on.
Well, I hope you can do that. It seems like you have done that, and the people should know that perhaps you've done that. But I'm going to ask you this question. Having had an extramarital affair, I always think back to John F. Kennedy, President Clinton. I was working in the US when he had that. That did not make them bad leaders. In fact, they were very popular presidents in America. But people in Hong Kong feel that maybe because your judgment is bad, that would somehow affect your judgment as the chief executive of Hong Kong. Lisa Tang, is he that kind of a person? Can he separate things?
Oh yes. I think for most men, it's so easy to fall in love. And its feeling is so sweet. I'm sure, Michael, you know the feeling.
I'm not going to go into my married life or all I can say, I'm a divorced person, but I know what you mean.
You're able to persuade me in that 10 minutes.
It took me a lot of persuasion for you to come on this show. I'm glad you did. But you think he can lead? You think your husband, Mr. Henry Tang, can lead as the chief executive of Hong Kong?
Definitely.
Even though he did things that made your heart drop to the bottom?
He has the humility to say, I'm so sorry. He has the heart to help me and comfort me why he did it. So,
do you still go out with Henry Tang, your husband, and feel like when you first met each other, when you first got married, and the feeling that you had at the time, after so many years, do you still have that feeling now, the two of you?
Yes. I think everyone changed. And just around the corner, I discover new things about him.
You sit back and have a glass of wine and enjoy dinner quietly?
Michael, it's not every day and it's not a common affair where couples get a chance to face the public and to bear their personal lives in front of the public.
Which is what you had to do.
Which was what we had to do. But this whole experience, we Lisa and I, and our whole family emerged from it closer and more united than ever.
That's good to hear.
I think it is an experience not everybody would like to have, but this is an experience which we had. And the support, the closeness, the united support I got from my whole family made me deeply moved and touched.
Have you ever thought, as husband and wife, have you ever thought that you have renewed your marriage? You went through you went through hell. In fact, your public life was dragged under the open. Not many people can survive something like that. You have survived and you're much better for it, it seems to me. Have you ever thought about renewing your marriage vows?
It's when we took our marriage vows nearly 30 years ago, we have made a promise to stick with each other through thick and thin.
And you're doing that?
And we are actually really putting people's marriage vows to a test whether our marriage is strong enough, our relationship is strong enough to stand the test. And I have found that we have emerged from it stronger and closer than before. I am grateful for it. I am deeply touched by the support that has been shown by my family, and all my friends around me have rallied around me and gave me so much support and encouragement through all of this experience. And what really moved me was I have strangers who calls up, who email me,
and
who text me and support me, and saying that it's not every day that people have to go through these experiences.
Well, you know, it might make you a stronger person, maybe a stronger leader, because you've gone through all of this. If you're elected chief executive, maybe you remember this as a lesson that makes you a stronger leader. Lisa Tang, I want to ask you this. Regina Yip, the legislative councillor, was on my show some time back when it first emerged about your extramarital affairs. And she said, as a woman, she could not forgive you, that women cannot forgive men who did that. Maybe that's not my view, but you did forgive your husband here. Would you think that women will find it hard to forgive husbands who are not faithful?
If they don't forgive, it's really sad, because the greatest love is to forgive and to forget. If you don't forgive, you'll be a very bitter person, and you live your whole life reflecting what went wrong. Why can't you live the life thinking about the best times you have together and move forward?
You're willing to do that now?
Well, forgiving him actually is saving myself from going
How is
down.
that? How do you save yourself by forgiving
Because
him?
if I don't forgive, then I have to remind myself how bad he is, how he betrayed me, how good I have been to him. Why did he do that? What for? Life is so short.
You know,
and what he did is just, a small part of what he have given me, which is very, very, very vast and blissful. We have 4 lovely children, and they're all behind us.
How many children do you have?
4.
Okay, and they're in school, they're grown up now?
My son is working now, and my 3 daughters are in school.
Okay.
And they all say, Mommy, it doesn't really care what happens with the election. As long we are a family together, united, that's all we want.
That's very nice. I want to ask you this. That leads me to this question. I want to ask the both of you this, and that is, you know, you said your public life was dragged, your private life was dragged out in public. Your kids, your 4 children, and your 3 girls said, you know, it doesn't matter whether, you know, Daddy becomes the chief executive of Hong Kong or not. You just want to be together, right, as a family. So why go through this? Why have your private life dragged out in public so you can become the chief executive of Hong Kong? It's nicer, maybe easier for you to say, forget it. Let somebody else run Hong Kong. You want to be a family and be happy. Why don't you do that?
Michael, this whole campaign has been full of challenges. And throughout this campaign, it made me think why I wanted to be the chief executive.
Well, I think many people out there want to know why you want to be the chief executive.
From the beginning. And I have come to the conclusion that my resolve and my determination and my commitment to serve the public have been from day one when I joined public office, from day one when I was Legislative Council member back in 1991, has not changed. From 1991, I was in LegCo, 97, I joined EXCO, 2002, I have to sever myself from all my business, family business, which are not that small, and I have to sever myself.
Well, you're known as a successful and very wealthy person.
So I have to sever all my ties to my businesses and join government with the sole purpose of serving the people. Running this campaign made me revisit what my resolve was and made me more determined than ever that my original intention are still intact. I still feel that I have the ability, I have the experience, and I have the team necessary to run Hong Kong so that we will have a brighter future than today.
You know, you say that, and you know, I remember even in the presidential campaign now in the U.S., you've had candidates dropping out like Herman Cain and so on because of extramarital affairs and so on. And you know, your husband Henry Tang just said his desire to serve Hong Kong is strong, and even though his private life is dragged through in the public domain, he's still wanting to serve. Many people would have dropped out. And what does it say about your husband that even though, you know, papers are spreading all different things about illegitimate children, about extramarital affairs, not just one, several, and an illegal basement in your home, when all these things are dragged out, your husband is still saying, I am going to soldier on. What does that tell you about him?
He is very courageous and he's very determined because he thinks, and I do believe, he has this compassion and the gentle heart to serve the people without any...
But wives would usually say to the husband, forget it, you know, let's just forget it, let's just move on. Have you ever told him that?
I like to share my husband for the people of Hong Kong because he's a good person. He's a good person, definitely. He's a good person. And a good person should share with the rest of Hong Kong.
Okay, you know, we'll pick that up in just a moment. Don't go away. See you soon. Thanks for staying with us. This is Newsline. As I said, a very special show this evening. I've got Lisa and Henry Tang. Mr. Henry Tang, of course, wants to be the next chief executive of Hong Kong. Now, thank you again for being on this show. It's a very important show, and I'm grateful that both of you have agreed to come. Now, you know, I want to come to you, Lisa Tang. One of the things that I think really affected Henry Tang, your husband's campaign is this issue of the illegal basement that you have in your home. I saw you that evening, one evening when there were a whole bunch of reporters out there filming, and I saw the both of you come out, and I saw you explain the situation, and I saw you, Lisa Tang, you were not a happy person that day. You were tearful. I think you touched many people's hearts in the way that you stood by your husband. But others, the more cynical ones, say it was an act. Was it an act? It could not have been an act.
No. Of course not.
You felt genuinely
I
that...
felt actually very bad for disappointing our supporters, people who trusted us, for making this really stupid mistake.
You call it stupid. Some will call it more than stupid. They would say idiotic.
Yes. Well, it's stupid. Yes.
Well, you know, that stupid mistake was made, and it has affected your husband's campaign to a very large degree. I don't think that people care too much about your extramarital affair, because that is a private business between the two of you. But the illegal basement was something that people said you should have dealt with, that it made people think about what many people feel that excesses by government officials, by the ruling class in Hong Kong and so on. I'm not going to get into that, but I just want to say that the issue is not over, and I'll just ask you this one. It might be a difficult question for you to answer, but I want to ask you this, Lisa Tang. If the investigation goes on, and if criminal charges are filed, surely you must be worried about that. You must have sleepless nights about how you're going to deal with that, the aftermath of this stupid mistake. How do you deal with it? How do you live with the fact that something worse could happen?
But for sure, I did the basement after I received the OP. So the
occupation permit.
Yes, so I can sleep very well at night. It was a really stupid mistake, because now that looking back, I don't need so many space. I really don't. Less is more. Less is much more.
It's better to have the two of you together rather than to have space, right?
Exactly.
But Michael, I have to admit that I handled that badly as well, because in the process, I have allowed the situation to get out of hand, turn into a media circus, and we could have handled it better in retrospect. But with 2020 hindsight, everybody could do better.
Sure. I mean, it's over now. What you need to do now, if you want to win the election, is to move on, recover from that. Winning the... Sorry, you were going to say...
I have put it behind us. I apologized. We came out in public and apologized together. So we have put it behind us and come out showing the voters, the election committee members, what my manifesto is about people. It's about caring for the elderly, better education because it's investing into the future, a more diversified economy.
That's easy to say though, Mr. Tang. You know, you do education, better housing, diversifying the economy. This is all in your, helping the people.
Yes.
It's all in your manifesto. I don't have a vote, neither does Lisa Tang. If I had a vote, after all that's happened, the public perception of you as a couple, if I had a vote, give me one good reason why I should vote for you.
Look at a person not just during campaign, but consider the person over years. After 9 years I have been in government, I have served the public with integrity. I have made many policy initiatives that have created jobs and benefited the community. So look at a person over the years rather than just during campaign
But
period.
the campaign lasted a few months. If you end up in government house, if you become the chief executive of Hong Kong, should we be prepared for more skeletons tumbling out of your cupboard?
I don't think there are any more skeletons.
You've had enough.
I believe it's rarely that a person gets a fresh start in life. All the skeletons in my closet has now been aired.
It's all been emptied.
It's now
okay,
empty.
if you become the chief executive, you know, every July the 1st, you'll take office in July the 1st. Every July the 1st, there are protests in the streets, mass protests. We've had 500,000 people in 2003, I think it was, whatever. There will be protests out in the streets, and some of them will be coming out saying you should not have been elected. Chief, this is if you are elected, that they will be saying you should not have been elected. How do you convince those people that they should trust you as a chief executive after all that's happened? How will you buy back their confidence? Or win back their confidence? Not buy back, win it back.
I believe, Michael, one of my greatest strengths is while I have the ability, the experience, and the team, but one of my strengths is my ability to listen to people. I will continue to listen to the voices of the community in formulating policies as well as implementing them. So I will continue to listen.
But you haven't told me how you're going to win back the people who don't believe you, don't trust you, don't think you should have won.
I think people care most about are the policies that directly affect them. Better housing, better schools, better elderly care, better transport. All of these are what people care about the most. So I will implement the policies that are in my manifesto and ultimately benefit the people serving the community. I will use my policies to regain the support
the public
of
trust.
the
Will
public.
Lisa Tang, will you help your husband do this? Sometimes, or most times, the husband becomes the leader, the wife disappears into the shadow. Are you going to do that?
I will support him all the way. Since I married him, I've been very, very supportive of each other.
You will not feel embarrassed coming out. Everything that's happened, people will still remember it. When you go to public function, charity event, you will walk with your head up high, or you will feel...
Of course. I think that's why Hong Kong is so successful. Because Hong Kong people, they don't judge you because you failed once. They give you a chance. And Hong Kong people is willing to forgive and make sure that you are able to be successful and come up again. And that's the Hong Kong spirit.
Well, let's hope that spirit survives. I just got a few more minutes. Your popularity rating is very low, Mr. Tang. As it is now, there's a huge gap between you and your opponent, Mr. C.Y. Leung. You've got a couple of weeks left. How on earth are you going to narrow that gap? Why should the election committee vote for you when there's such a huge gap in public support for you?
I am confident that the election committee members will support me and the community will support me when
in 2 weeks you can bring that around?
When they see the content in my manifesto, when they see my experience in government and my ability to implement what I say in my manifesto.
You know, I've always wondered, your manifesto, one thing, I've just got 2 minutes. I've always wondered, you've got such a beautiful, loving, caring wife sitting there right next to you, and throughout this interview, she was supporting you. You went astray. What made you do that? Human failing?
I believe every person has failings. Michael,
Don't go into my personal life.
You would not say you have never made any mistakes in your life.
I have.
You?
I'm going to look in the camera and say I did. I have made mistakes. Yes.
And I think, as far as I am concerned, the main thing is, after you've made a mistake, is the courage to admit it, and move on, and tell yourself, don't make that same mistake again.
Well, I've got 1 minute. I'm going to give it to you, Lisa Tang. Don't make the same mistake again. I looked in the camera and said, I've made mistakes. Can you look into the camera and tell the people of Hong Kong, in a minute, why Mr. Henry Tang, your husband, should lead Hong Kong? Why does he deserve it more than the others?
I honestly believe his heart is with the people of Hong Kong. He has a heart that will be caring, genuine, without any lie or pretense. He doesn't need it. And he is very, very human.
Okay, he's very human. We'll end on that note. You're a very human person. Thanks for watching Newsline. See you next week. Good evening.